Yeah, the problem with that, Philip, is it was quite a long time ago. It was right at the beginning of the season, wasn't it? And it's like anything else. The snooker season runs almost over 12 months solid, maybe a slight
50.
break after the World Championships. And by his standards, that's a long time. And by his standards, that was a very
Robertson,
surprising
50.
miss.
Just as he looked as though he was going to take a firm grip on this match, Jimmy's barely had a look in so far. That was a surprise. The question is whether the whirlwind can punish him for it. Yeah, he suffered 3 consecutive first-round losses, didn't he, O'Sullivan? China Championship champion of champions. And then bowed out before the televised stages of the UK Championship. That was perhaps the biggest surprise of all.
4.
Beaten by Peter Lyons pretty convincingly in qualifying. The win over O'Sullivan was certainly one of his best wins of the last few months. And he started extremely well tonight.
5.
But he's led his opponent back in.
Interesting. Didn't sound like the best of contacts. The cue ball didn't travel quite as far as he was thinking it would. He's got to make this this chance. Because I get the feeling he's not going to get more than 1, perhaps 2 a frame at most. Well, that little nudge on the middle jaws worked very nicely, actually. Jimmy White with that very familiar address of the ball, very, very low, almost on the slate
7.
with the tip of the cue.
Yeah, with a hair's
18.
breadth between the tip of that cue and the cue ball. And a few times in his career I've seen him feather that. Not quite as dramatically as Anthony Hamilton did in the semi-finals of the Northern Ireland Open, but it's a bit of an occupational hazard
25.
when you address the cue ball as tightly as Jimmy has down the years, but it's largely paid off, hasn't it? Well, in excess of £3 million earned on the table, as well as legendary status. Surely the most popular player ever to have played the game.
26.
Took on the mantle of the People's Champion from his very good friend, the late great Hurricane Higgins. I'm not sure how much of an advantage that huge amount of support he carried around with him was. I think at times it was something of a burden. It put even more pressure on his shoulders to perform. And it also inspired his opponents. I know Stephen Hendry used to get quite a bit of stick from the Wembley Conference Centre crowd, but rather than be intimidated by it, it just inspired him to greater heights. And he had a great record against White there. Had a great record against everyone. 6 times a winner.
$40. $41.
But he's taken these nicely so far, has Jimmy. 10 tables in use in total here, including the 2 match tables.
Keeps rubbing his hands together. Maybe he's a bit cold out there. But he looks sharp. This one at a bit more distance between cue ball and object ball could potentially
47.
find him out. But what he's played and got in this break all hit the middle of the pocket. There's the old rub of the hands. Bit chilly.
Yeah, that was a better pot than it looked.
Yes, it was good, and he looks as if comes here in form. He said it to me that he's hitting the ball well, but I'll be honest, he always says that.
Yes, it's one thing doing it on the practice table, isn't it? It's quite another to bring that form to the match table. Lead now 33, but still 51 there, so another couple of reds required as again Jimmy rubs his hands together. Normally, snooker venues are pretty hot and clammy places under the lights. A little extension on the butt of his cue, give him some extra reach here. It's another very good pot.
55.
And that could be a frame winner.
Indeed. Now that red up the table, if he could play on that, that man has been put onto the back foot. That is okay, and he's not right behind it, which would be very handy.
62.
But this is a good contribution.
Can concentrate completely on the pot. It's frame ball.
I think he's worried about the plain ball. It might be coming close to the middle pocket, the cue ball. They can't afford that to happen for obvious reasons. Thin, good shot. This has been a fine break, and generally a very good standard so far.
Exactly what the whirlwind would have been looking for here. He's punished Robertson's surprising potting error with a frame-winning break. Clinical. It's what you've got to be to take out one of the very best. Jimmy White spent many, many years being one of the hunted. Now he's the hunter.
67.
Well, 102 from Robertson with his first scoring attempt in frame one. What a response from the wind. Enough for his own
75.
102 break.
$77.
Well, Robertson was showing Jimmy White the utmost respect in that first frame and a bit. And this is why.
80.
Because he's more than aware that form is temporary, but class is permanent, and White still has that in abundance,
84.
as he's proving here.
This is a little gem of a match. Right into 2 frames. It's been very good.
89.
That was a very bad miss, and I couldn't see a reason for it. Don't think it was bad contact. It's a bad shot. Ever since, it's been vintage Jimmy
95.
White.
He's made just 1 century so far this season. And that is number 2, and what a break it was. Magnificent stuff. That's why He is the most popular player ever to pick up a cue. That was poetry in motion. Frame a piece.